And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com, brought to you in part by Yahoo Sports. Don't forget, DFS offerings every day over there on Yahoo. You want to check them out. Different pricing, scoring that is similar but not exactly the same as some of these DFS sites. So you can get a little bit of a different feel for how you're constructing lineups. Awesemo.com does have projections for Yahoo, so you can check those out along with ownership projections, also available at Awesemo.com. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD. Dan Trevor, Dave Lockren, along with you on this Monday morning post Game of Thrones. We're not going to talk about it. We can talk about that at a later date. I will give people one day to watch it.
Though.
It's over.
It's all over.
My wife did at the end. She goes, "There's one more episode." Right? I was like, "No, honey, I'm sorry. No, this is it." She goes, "I swore there's one more." I was like, "Nope, I'm sorry."
It's all over, man.
And she did the moment of, "Wait, that was really it?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not lying to you. That's it. There it is. Don't stop believing. Fade to black." So let's talk about this 8-game Major League Baseball slate. But always, I'd like to know, Dave, how the hell are you doing?
Well, Game of Thrones is over. It's sad, man. I won't get into any opinions on it, but it's something, 9 straight years been watching that show, and it is gone. It is all over with, but you know what? Chernobyl on HBO is also pretty damn sick. So it'll come nowhere close to Game of Thrones, but it airs on Monday nights at 9. I would suggest anyone that needs a new show, check out Chernobyl. Well worth it. 2 episodes in, and I'm hooked.
I will say they were promoting hard their other shows on HBO before and after.
Oh, yeah, and after. And both of the ones afterwards looked like nothing I'd be interested in.
Agreed. And I will say we know there's a prequel already in the works that's already shooting, and I would not be surprised to see a sequel to Game of Thrones with Arya and/or Sansa as a main titular character. But
certainly would be interesting.
Let's dive in here. I guess a little bit of a spoiler there. Sorry, guys. Anyway, we will dive in here on this 8-game slate. So at the top here, no announced starter as of yet for the Chicago White Sox. So as we go through, consider most of their staff sucks. So we can take that for what it is when it comes to the Houston offense. They've been very solid, obviously, all year long. So not going to shy away there. But we do have 5 pitchers, 9K or above. You get Corbin against the Mets, who seem dead to rights at this point. I'm not a huge narrative guy, but this Mets team just has seemed to have quit on Callaway. You get the stories about Canó. The offense is sputtering. They can't beat the Miami Marlins. And now they get the Nationals at home in Queens. Mike Minor against the Seattle Mariners here at 9,700. Paddock came down to earth in his last start, gets a home start here against Arizona. Then you have the White Sox starter against against Houston, whomever they roll out. They have Rodon listed. I misspoke before. So 4 starters, 9K or above. Mike Soroka being the 4th one, 9,200 in San Francisco. Have to like that. Whomever the pitcher is for an opposing team in Oracle Park against this Giants offense. Expensive pitchers, 9,200 and above for getting Rodon, obviously getting rid of the White Sox starter. 4 starters here. Any of them interesting to you, or do you find yourself looking at cheaper options on this slate?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one because as far as the high-price pitching goes, there's not a ton. Like Patrick Corbin against the Mets has got to be your top option, even though he's expensive. Now, can we just talk about this for a second? The Mets have 3 hits over their last 18 innings.
Yeah, they've been bad.
Of which all 18 innings came against the Marlins. Syndergaard wasn't great from a fantasy standpoint, but he only allowed 2 runs over 6 innings. Matz was good yesterday. They lost 2-0 and 2-0 in back-to-back games to easily the worst team in baseball. Not disputable. There's no debate. Worst team in the game, particularly on the hitting end. Sandy Alcántara threw a complete game shutout where he allowed 1 hit and threw less than 10 pitches an inning. He took him 89 pitches to go complete game. It's been dreadful. So, I mean, look, there's no doubt in my mind that looking at a team like the Mets, maybe ultimately they'll turn it around, but right now it doesn't look like it. And I think you have to look at Corbin at the top. This is just a Mets team that continues to struggle. Their overall numbers on the season aren't terrible. But, I mean, if you just look at this team, nobody's hitting right now. They're not even, they look so out of sync, so dysfunctional that, you get Corbin to come in here, and I think you get good numbers. Now, I will say this much. Their WOBA against lefties this season is, I think, middle of the road. Yeah, 14th. No, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 13th. Their ISO, I'm going to get there. Their ISO is, I think, 20th. That's right, 20th. But their K rate against lefties, Dan, this is what we care about, is the third highest in the league at 29%.
Yep.
Only around 400 plate appearances, but still, they're striking out a ton against lefties. They don't have a ton of speed on the base paths, but it's not terrible. This is a spot where Corbin is, in my opinion at least, far and away your top high-priced option.
Yeah, it feels pretty comfortable being on Corbin here against a Mets team that has struggled, and you don't want to get too bogged down by recent results, right? You don't want to get too much in the last 3 games, but the Marlins clearly being a substandard franchise right now, really a minor league team disguised as a major league roster. And for them to do what they did to the Mets, shut them down, Alcántara doing his work, and maybe Sandy Alcántara, I do that every time, Sandy Alcántara turns out to be a fine major league pitcher over his career, but he doesn't hit the strike zone. And the Mets, I think, had, I would have to look at the actual number, but their O swing rate was insane on that game on Sunday. And I think he had 13 pitches actually in the strike zone.
Wow.
And managed to go for a complete game shutout.
Wow.
And so it just shows the plate discipline that isn't there for the Mets. And someone like Corbin, who has more skill than Alcántara, should be in a prime spot here. And as Dave cited, the K percentage is there, and one that should be exploited. 10-9 is our most expensive, though. You get Minor, Paddock, and Soroka. Soroka in Oracle Park stands out to me. Do you prefer Minor or Paddock over Soroka, or will you take the park advantage here of Oracle Park?
I don't think you need to go to those guys here. And a lot of it is just because Corbin's a far superior play in this spot. Minor's been excellent this year, and he's a good pitcher, but paying almost $10K for him feels a little bit steep against the Seattle team that is good. They've labored at times. They're, all teams are going to struggle, but the Seattle Mariners have really hit lefties well. They can load the lineup with right-handed bats. So while they do strike out, I think 10th highest in the league, 26%, and oddly enough against lefties this year, they 109 actually. I think no, they've been better. Okay, I read that wrong. Yeah, the Mariners are pretty much top 10 in WOBA and ISO, but I don't know if I want to go here with Minor. He's too close in price to Corbin, even though they're not, $200 separated, where Corbin just seems to be the better play. Chris Paddock against Arizona, I don't hate that. One of the things is we know that Paddock has good enough strikeout stuff. He's averaging north of a strikeout per inning this season. That's what you want to see. And I think when you look at some of the other numbers, like his swinging strike rate, it's coming in at almost 12%, 31% called plus swinging strike rate. These are good numbers. I have no issue with them. He's allowing no home runs to righties, none on the year. 0.4 whip against righties, 79 plate appearances. Lefties have hit him better, but he's still holding them to a sub 300 WOBA. A little bit of power there, but not something I'm super concerned about. So I think Paddock's in play in Petco. It's not a bad spot, but once again, I still prefer Corbin here. The interesting one would be Mike Soroka, right? He's done an excellent job of run prevention this season, and he's expensive, but he doesn't seem to be egregiously overpriced in this matchup. The only concern or question is, do the Giants offer enough strikeouts here?
Right.
Like, are we going to get the Ks that we need? Because we know it's not a good team, right? We know this is a team that is not okay. They are 267 or no, 297 WOBA, so sub 300, an 87 WRC plus against righties, and a 24% K rate. So all of those numbers are decent enough. I think that 24% strikeout rate ranks in the top. Okay, no, 15, right in the middle of the road. But they're just not powerful. This park plays really well for pitchers, as we know. I think I'd actually, if I'm foregoing Corbin, or if I'm going to play another high-priced pitcher with him, which I don't think is going to be necessary, it would probably be Soroka, but that's above 9K. Once you get below 9K, only $100 below, you have Brad Peacock, who, while I worry about him once he gets through the order twice and he struggles to go deep into the game or into games, and his K rate has declined this year, we still know that he's capable of putting up pretty solid numbers. And this is a White Sox squad that is going to give you strikeouts. Like, they are going to offer up plenty of strikeouts. And Brad Peacock is better against righties by a long shot than he is against lefties. The problem is, how many lefties will be in this lineup? My guess is there will be a decent amount. Like yesterday, you had 1, 2, now not all of these guys are good, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lefties. Keep an eye on the lineup, and even if there's more lefties than we want, if they're not good, Peacock could still be a pretty solid option, but he's always better against righty-heavy teams.
Makes sense. And one to keep an eye on, you get Darvish, Happ against Baltimore. We've picked on Baltimore a decent amount, but if you start to look at the season-long numbers, it doesn't really bear out that them being a high-end DFS matchup simply because, right? If you get the right matchup, the K upside from a pitcher, fine, but they've been middle of the road from a K percentage and a WOBA and ISO from the start of the year. You get Happ at 8K, not too high a price point, but Happ also has had some severe troubles this year, keeping runners off the bases. Has given up two home run games over his last 3. That was against Minnesota and the same Baltimore Orioles. Do you like Happ or Darvish, or would you rather just try to find someone much cheaper to pair with one of these top-end guys?
Yeah. By the way, the Diamondbacks have a 3.5 run total against Paddock, which is very low. We don't have all of the totals yet, but that's going to be one of the lowest on the slate. Maybe the lowest outside of potentially the Mets. Yeah, the Mets could be there for sure. With Darvish, the walks have been really concerning. I know last game he didn't walk anybody, struck out 11, easily his best start of the season.
In a while, yeah, long while.
Yeah, easily. Even I know he had a pretty decent game a few weeks ago, but he still walked 4 in that game. Like, the concern in this one was he only went 5 1/3 innings, but he struck out 11. You want to see that. You want to see Darvish putting those numbers up that we remember him being able to produce before. And his swinging strike rate last game, as I pull up his game log here, his swinging strike rate over his last few games is 10.8, 8.3, 9.9. It's kind of weird because his swinging strike rate was way higher on earlier starts, but he was struggling. The biggest thing is, it's not that Darvish can't get strikeouts. It's that he labors through innings, racks up his pitch count, walks too many batters, runs across the plate, because when you're walking a bunch of guys, it's a lot easier to push runs across. And that subsequently has forced him to hit the clubhouse early. I don't think I go there, maybe in tournaments, but it is a tough team in the Phillies. I'd also be paying close attention to weather here at Wrigley Field.
Yep.
If we have wind blowing in heavy, then I'd be more interested. It's only going to be 50 degrees. So I don't think it's a crazy option to target Yu Darvish, but I'm not enamored by it either. One guy that's actually interesting is Luke Weaver. I mean, Luke Weaver I never thought I'd be paying $8,500 for him, but his stuff has looked really good. And when you talk about some changes, you see his missed bats, I mean, just way up from what we've seen in the past. This season, Weaver is at 11% swinging strike rate, 31% called plus swinging, both solid enough numbers. They're not outrageously good, right? They're not eye-popping numbers, but he's also holding them to lefties and righties to a sub 300 weighted on base average, not giving up a lot of power. I don't think it's an insane idea to assume Weaver could have a decent game here against the righty-heavy Padres. And, he's striking righties out this season at 28.4%. It could end up being a very good matchup for Weaver, depending on what lineup the Padres roll out.
Makes a ton of sense to at least look to Weaver here. 8,500, I think, is a price point that may be a bit slow for some to pick up on. You do have Odorizzi right there at 8,200. I mentioned Happ and Darvish earlier. You throw in Arrieta at 7,800. Is Odorizzi just in a spot where the strikeouts won't be there for you against the Angels?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Even if they don't push runs across the plate, this is the team that puts balls in play way more than you're looking for. Honestly, I'd probably I know I would. I'd rather go to Luke Weaver here, knowing that he could give you 8 or so strikeouts, where Odorizzi would have a very difficult time getting above 5.
Anybody else? Do you go to a Suarez at 7,800 in Oracle Park against Atlanta? Can you even stomach something like that? A Leake, a Cashner against the Yankees, I don't think is really viable in any way, shape, or form. But is there anybody else that you think pitcher-wise at least needs to be part of that early player pool?
So I think Happ's price is down enough where you can definitely consider it, right? He's already faced Baltimore 3 times this season, and all 3 starts have been underwhelming. 4 innings, 4 1/3, 5 1/3 innings, 4 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs. He's given up 2 1 and 2 home runs, so 5 in 3 starts against them. His strikeout totals are low. I mean, at 8K, I don't see it being wild to think that Happ is actually decent here, because you're getting him at a price point that's definitely lower than it should be against Baltimore. Just they're not a very powerful offense. They're not as bad as people make them out to be. They're not the Marlins. They're not the current Mets, the way they've played over the past week. But they're still one of the worst offenses, or one of the least imposing offenses in the game. I'd put it this way: I'd rather have Luke Weaver over Odorizzi and J.A. Happ over Odorizzi as well. I think that's where I'm landing on this. Once you come down further, though, Suarez, I'm not going there. Mike Leake in Texas, no thank you. No Andrew Cashner, no Drew Gagnon. The only one I'd throw out there is Felix Pena. I think he's a little bit too expensive, knowing that he's going to be working in a relief role. But if you're not risk averse and you're willing to roll the dice, Pena has looked good. He does have great strikeout stuff. This is one guy, though, where you really need to pay attention to the lineup. The more righties that you're going to get in this game, the better it is for Felix Pena. So keep an eye on that Minnesota Twins lineup. It'll make a big difference for a guy that's so much markedly better against same-handed bats.
All right, let's quickly go through some of the top offenses here. You've already, to an extent, tipped the hand a bit, talking about which pitchers you would not want for this slate, but we can go through quickly here. What are some of your favorite offenses, stacks, or one-offs that you find, and which pitchers are you targeting heavily against, at least early on here as we look at it?
So there are a couple spots I think you probably need to look for hitting. As I pointed out, the Texas Rangers here are in a really, really favorable spot. They've let us down recently. There's no denying that. The Rangers have let us down in some really good spots, but that doesn't mean you stop going back to the well. No. When you've got a great spot, you have to exploit it. And if you're telling me that we have a matchup at Globe Life Park, which is one of the preeminent hitter parks in the game, and it's coming. Sorry, my computer shut down. A battery just died or something, even though it's plugged in. So I had to swap over to the other one real quick. Against Mike Leake. Mike Leake is serviceable from a run prevention standpoint, but he's allowed 11 home runs this year.
Yep.
He's allowed multiple home runs in 4 starts, 3 or more home runs in 2 starts. Like, if you want some upside and a high ceiling, it is definitely a slew of lefty Ranger bats at Globe Life Park. I mean, I really like that. Outside of them, the Yankees against Cashner, obviously a top spot. They have a run total right now. I think it's at 5.5, something crazy high. I'd have to pull it back up again. And then
the game's at 9.5 with the Yankees minus 180, so that would make sense to be 5.2 to 5.5.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. Aside from those guys, though, it's kind of tough to fall in love with anyone. Maybe Washington bats, but that's really not all that appealing. It feels like the Rangers and Yankees are going to be super chalk.
Yep.
The truth is, it's hard to get away from it, but in baseball, you have to. Like, there are definitely spots that you can go to. You might not feel great about them, but they make sense. Like, even the Padres against Weaver. Weaver's looked good, but I don't think he's fully proven yet that he is a totally new pitcher. And if bad Weaver comes back, onto the mound, then you're going to really wish that you had some bats from his opponent, because Bad Weaver is really bad. And
So
one that I'm really fascinated by, and I hope goes overlooked, I think it will. The White Sox against Peacock. Again, if you're running out, excuse me, if you're running out a lefty heavy lineup, and I would expect them to do that, could be a really, really good spot that goes overlooked. And we know that Peacock's struggles against lefties haven't gone anywhere.
I will say, if it's Bad Weaver, is Good Weaver Dream Weaver? Is that how that works? Is that no?
I will not entertain that with a response.
Come on.
I will not dignify that with a response.
Let's have some fun. I will also say that's not fun. What are you doing? I will say, you mentioned the Rangers, obviously the Mariners on the other side. I like Mike Minor as a pitcher, but some of the righty power bats on Seattle could have a big day here in Globe Life Stadium. I know it's more lefty power typically, but it's an 11 over under, Texas minus 140. You should be targeting
that.
Both sides of that game.
I like that.
And I think the Phillies, if you want to find a pitcher who is skilled but can blow up, the Phillies against Darvish, right? If Darvish is off, he's off the rails. It's bad. It's walks and home runs and all sorts of mayhem breaks loose. So again, if you're building multiple lineups, or if you're just looking to completely go against the grain a little bit, I think the Phillies should be part of that plan. Don't think they'll be chalk in any way, shape, or form. So you'd be going against ownership trends there as well. And don't forget, we have those over at Awesemo.com. They're available to any subscriber. You can log in and see for the main, for the early, for the late, and sort accordingly, even if some of our own employees aren't aware of that fact. They know who they are. But nonetheless,
I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you. He doesn't listen anyway, let's be honest. It's Awesemo.com. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, one word, gets you 50% off your first month. Any final thoughts here, Dave? I don't want to say it's a cut and dry slate, but I do think this early on, it's a pretty straightforward analysis slate. So it's going to be a little bit more digging for you, writing the deep dive and on the deeper dive at 5 p.m. over there on YouTube as lineups come out. I think that's going to be a key cog here. And really, who's pitching for the White Sox? We'll lean in here along with who's pitching for the Mets, as we have Drew Gagnon listed, but I know that's still up in the air. Any final thoughts on this slate before we say so long?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, because I think there's going to be a ton of chalk, there are some good ways to get away from the field. Like you said, you could go Seattle against Minor, hope that he comes down to earth a little bit at a great park in hot temperatures. You can look towards contrarian pitchers, but you're going to need to get different in some spot. Like, there's no doubt about it that, even if your stack hits and you've loaded up on, Yankee bats or Ranger bats, and you've done it with, let's say, Patrick Corbin as your pitcher, and name one more chalk pitcher. We'll see who it's going to be. Maybe Peacock. I don't see how that's going to get you where you need to go on this slate.
Right. That makes a ton of sense to me. As always, you find Dave's write-up Monday, Wednesday, Friday over on Awesemo.com. That's called The Deep Dive. Adam, Ship My Money DFS share, who's moving soon. It's a happy day for everyone, because apparently his modem will work when he does move, but still hasn't bought a new computer from what I understand. So take that for what it's worth.
Of course.
But anyway, you get him Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Podcast schedule typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday is me and Laffy, Emac and Adam Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But that is TBD at times due to life, and life comes up from time to time. With that said, find Dave on Twitter at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Strafford. And of course, it's at Awesemo_com. Wish you the best of luck on Monday's slate. And as always, you've been listening to the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com.